Hello everyone, and welcome back to French Bread's lore run of Dark Souls 3. I am the French Bread, or Chris if you prefer, and we are back in Firelink Shrine. We just talked with the Firekeeper here, and the Crestfallen... the Crestfallen Warrior who has disappeared between this recording and the other one. No big deal. So before I really get into it, I want to make more clarifications. Just about the nature of this lore run. I wanted to clarify earlier. I said I had done research about the lore of the game, and I just wanted to specify that that research involved me going back and looking at all the item descriptions, weapon descriptions, spells, whatever, that I could get my hands on just to refresh myself on what I was familiar with in the lore. I have not and will not be looking at, you know, community discussions on lore, things that occur on, I don't know, the subreddits or wherever these things happen. Nothing against those communities or their speculation. It's just for me that we understand that Dark Souls 3 is going to be the last Dark Souls possibly ever, certainly for a while. And just as this was my last opportunity to play through a game blind, it's also my last opportunity to kind of go through a game, comb over it, and try to create an understanding of the lore for myself, as opposed to one that is heavily influenced by, you know, what the cloud comes up with. And again, nothing against that. It's just part of the fun for me of these games is, you know, I play the crap out of them, and then I try to go back with a fine-tooth comb and understand more of what's been going on. The only exception to this is I am currently watching Epic Name Bro, also known as Marcus, his blind Let's Play of the game. I've been watching Marcus's videos since I've been playing, you know, Souls games. So I'll be damned if I don't watch his series as it comes out. And while it's not a lore series, he does provide, you know, his own take, his own speculation on what's going on, and some of it's influenced my own opinions, and I will be sure to point out the circumstances where I feel like his impressions have either greatly influenced my own or are things that he theorized that I hadn't even thought of. Some stuff we both had the same thoughts on. Some stuff like I said, I had not thought of on my own. So, just a disclaimer there. Also, a note that it's Dark Souls. You can only do so many of the events with one character. And to that end, later on in the lore run, I'll be supplementing footage of these kind of alternate events and endings and other sort of information that I don't get on this character, Ronnie here, with some of my other characters in the game. We'll get to that when we get to it. But for now, enough stalling, enough talking about, you know, the gist of this or that. Let's get to exploring Firelink a little bit more thoroughly. Howdy doody. How many people were not thrilled when they got a look at this chick and were thinking, yep, obligatory Souls 2 reference. Maybe it is, but that's certainly not all it is, thankfully.
A pleasure to make thine acquaintance, Ashen One. I am but a humble handmaid of the shrine. Weapons, armor, trinkets, and spells. I've lots of little things to ease the burden of a weary traveler. And yes, I'm undead too, but not so charitable as to give my goods away. Ashen One, fetch souls and bring them to me. As is thy wont, no? Ashen One, if my wares are not to thy satisfaction, bring me umbral ash. With ash, I'll fashion new wares. Is it not our sorry fate to sup on death?
Definitely the same voice actress as the retired firekeepers from Dark Souls 2, but I do believe this is a completely separate character. Let's see what she has for sale here. Repair powder. No particular lore here, and not a very particularly useful weapon here. Purple moss clump. Here's the basic poison. But nothing more to say to it than that. Prism stones. Warm pebbles emitting a beautiful phasing aura of 7 colors. With a very rare 8th. That's it. What is it, like a collection game? Like, you gotta keep buying them to see if you can get that rare 8th color? I'm not sure. Anyway, as it says, it doesn't do anything special. It's just a path marker. The best thing that these items have been used for are related to PvP, either with setting up arenas or setting up cheeky traps. The White Soapstone. Online play item. The nature of Lothric is murky, unclear. The White Soapstone allows unkindled to assist one another. This item used to talk about the flow of time in what was Lorerun being distorted. Here it's Lothric being murky and unclear. I kind of feel like it's the same sort of idea. The Dried Finger. This was an item from the first game as well. But in this particular circumstance, no real lore, just an online item. Laden with lore, though, is the Tower Key. Key to the decrepit tower behind Firelink Shrine, which leads to the Bell Tower. The Bell Tower is the grave of firekeepers past. When a firekeeper has served her purpose, she is led to true darkness, wherein she enjoys a long-deserved sleep. Pretty ominous. Sounds like when we're done with these firekeepers, when when we've had enough of them, they get tossed into the bell tower to whatever end. We'll investigate that a bit later. Soul Arrow. Basic sorcery. Farron Dart. A variation of Soul Arrow developed by sorcerers of the Undead Legion of Farron. Well known among the Farron sorceries, it is learned far and wide due to its ease of use. And I believe this is a kind of a basic sorcery that fires out like a rapid fire machine gun of weaker pellets. Heal Aid. And of course it refers to the Undead Legion, which are related to the Abyss Watchers, Lords of Cinder. We'll get more into Farron and their sorceries a bit later. Anyway, Heal Aid. It is a miracle imparted as charity to those of little faith, a show of tolerance from the Way of White. So, the Way of White, we may or may not remember from Dark Souls 1 as being a sort of religious order that at the time seemed to be centered in Astora, that was all about venerating and worshipping the gods, or more specifically Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight. It was related to figures such as Allfather Lloyd, who was said to be an uncle of Gwyn, and Archbishop Havel the Rock, who was a battle compatriot of Gwyn, and had a thing against magic users, and Seath Scalus in particular. It appears that the Way of White has continued into this current era, however long it's been since Dark Souls 1. And you get the impression that it's a strict order from this. You know, it's a show of tolerance from the Way of White. It has a strict feeling to it, and we'll see more of that later. Daggers, useful for poking. Short swords, also poking weapons. The scimitar, nothing here to say. It's a curved sword. Halberd, sorcerer's staff, a common catalyst given to sorcerers of the Vinheim Dragon School. So Vinheim and its Dragon School seems to have also persisted into the modern era. We have our basic talisman. Once a very common item amongst the ranks of the old Way of White. So you can take that one of two ways, right? You can take that as the Way of White in general is an old order, or you could take that to mean an older iteration or version of the Way of White. I think it's more of the latter, based on things we encounter later. Torch. Creates some light. More importantly, it'll clear your body of nasty maggot leeches things, which we'll deal with later. Nothing to say. Blood of Warriors, not really anything important there. Yada yada. Chainmail. Knights may favor imposing armor, but warriors on the battlefield... But for warriors on the battlefield, that which keeps them alive is armor enough. Yeah. And these are just ammunition. Alright. I think we've had enough of her.
Knowest thou of that soppy gossip? That cordial intrusion layeth the path to embers. And so thou art in need of a soapstone, ashen one. Then thy pockets will overflow with souls to trade to me.
Quite the sales pitch. Alright, we'll go ahead and do that for her.
Ashen one, be sure to bring more souls.
Goodness, does everyone who shows up in Firelink Shrine have to laugh all creepy like? Alright, this guy. You know him. You love him. You don't really understand why he's here.
Well, a newcomer, I see. I am Andre. I serve at this shrine as a humble smith, forging weapons. You're in search of the Lords of Sindu, I trust. A toilsome journey, I wager. You'll require good arms. Let me smith you weapons. I am a smith, such is my purpose. Weapons and protection are sturdy enough by and large, but when overused, they'll eventually break. When their durability is low, repair becomes a necessity. Use a powder, or simply rest at a bonfire. But should chance impel them break, bring them me. I'll hammer them back into shape. They take no pleasure in breaking, I assure ye. So handle them with care, if you would. There are two ways to smith weapons. Simple reinforcement is one, and infusion the other. Reinforcement is straightforward. It strengthens a weapon without altering its property. Infusion is a more advanced form of smithing that infuses an element. Reinforcement requires titanite, and infusion requires gems. Bring the stones, and I'll do the smithing. It's my purpose, after all. In battle, your weapons are your only friends. Forge them well, and they won't let you down. Another matter. Infusing weapons with gems requires a special kind of coal. My humble coals won't be any use infusing more unusual gems. I know, it's an awful shame, but it's all I have. Oh, please don't give me that look. Believe it or not, I'm quite thin-skinned. Oh, by the way, if you find any Estus shards, bring them here. They can be used to reinforce either of your Estus flasks. Without those flasks, you'd want for life or focus. And they'll always stay with you. Why not treat them well? Huh? Weapons and protection.
All right.
But they so.
That's what he has to say for the time being. Now, if we wish to, we could already infuse our weapon with a fire gem. It would remove its scaling, but give us some fire damage in addition to our regular physical damage. We're going to pass on that for now, though.
Pretty be careful. I don't want to see my work squandered.
You haven't done any work yet, Andre. Oh, Andre. I don't think there's any particularly good reason why Andre is here. I think it's just a little bit of fan service. And that's not the worst thing in the world. If we want to go out on a limb, if we want to make a stretch and kind of think of a reason why Andre might be here, we can assume that Andre is an undead. And undead are undying. The niggle there is that it would appear that very few undead are capable of existing for as long as Andre must have existed. Because he was present at the end of the first stage of fire, you know, after Gwyn had linked the flame, and we as the chosen undead were moving, going through Lorerun, seeking a way to correct the situation. And between then, there's however much time has taken place, right? Like Dark Souls 2 was all about these countless civilizations that had risen and fallen after, you know, the first linking of the fire. And I don't know how long it's been, but it must have been centuries. It must have been centuries. And Andre is still here. He's still kicking. He ain't hollow. I can only assume that if there is any particular reason, it's just because Andre is super cool and satisfied with being a smith. And that's all he needs to stay sane. So, go Andre if so. And a friend did point out to me that if that's the case, there can't be very many people in this world that are better informed than Andre. Like, he's seen it all, right? But he's not very talkative about it, unfortunately. Let's read up on these thrones. Yorm the Giant of the profaned capital. Yeah, that looks like a Yorm-sized seat to me. Watchers of the Abyss. There we go. Let's tilt this down here. See those swords? Souls veterans immediately, if they didn't already in the opening cutscene, recognize a similarity, not identical, but a similarity between the swords stacked up here and the weapons wielded by a certain Artorias of the Abyss. Up here in this prominent position, Holy King Lothric, last hope of his line. Yeah. King Lothric, Prince Lothric, both Lothrics. there's a lot of important information regarding those characters. Some of the biggest mysteries in the game are understandably tied to Lothric, so we will get into that as soon as we can. Ludlith the Exiled. Not mentioned at all in the opening cutscene. I suppose neither was King Lothric, but Ludlith, huh? Saint Aldrich of the Deep. Whew, there's a lot to go into with him too, but let's talk with the one lord who seems to have not abandoned his throne.
O thou unkindled, and a seeker of lords, I am Ludlith of Corland. Look not in bewilderment as I say. I linked the fire long ago, becoming the Lord of Cinder. If substantiation be thy want, set thine eyes upon my charred corpse. This sad cadaver, no need to be calm. Have a closer look. Knowest thou of our purpose? 5 thrones will take 5 lords as kindling for the linking of the fire. The fast-fading flame must be licked to preserve this world. A reenactment of the first linking of the fire. So it is, I became a lord of Cinder. I may be but small, but I will die a Colossus.
Yeah, so Ludlith of Corland here, the Exiled, is a very interesting character, and he has some services that he can perform for us that we'll get to a little bit later. But he's a character I have a lot of questions about and a lot of distrust for, despite his, you know, well-meaning exterior.
Now, do not be away overlong.
But, you guessed it, we'll get to that a bit later. For now, we're going to move on to our next task, but yeah, he had a lot of interesting things to say there about the purpose of the Unkindled, but I don't think we can quite crack that open just yet. Let's take a walk up the stairs here. Yep. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Love it or hate it. I don't have anything to say about it. It's there. I haven't divined any reason for it. Of course it's locked. Items up here. Oh me, oh my. Let's see if I can get this. Huh? There we go. Yep, why not? More homeward bones. Oh, joy. And a much better view of Lothric. Let's see if I can get myself out of the way. Yep. That's not bad. Wrap around the side here. Agitate our friend there. Whoop. There we go. Crystal lizards. They make their triumphant return. Twinkling Titanite for weapon reinforcement. These unique weapons cannot be reinforced with ordinary Titanite, nor can they be infused, unless one uses this Twinkling Titanite, which reinforces these weapons without unraveling their inherent strength. Yeah, you know, it's just for some of those unique weapons in the game. We're used to them. There's not a whole lot of lore there, though. Let's head on in this way. up to the rafters above Firelink.
You, me, pickle pea. Me, bumperum.
Here are crows. It's the same story as usual. You trade them items, and they give you a reward if it's the item they're looking for. In exchange for our firebomb, you got a large titanite shard. Not too shabby. Got an emote and some iron bracelets. And we get our first Estus shard right here. So the crows, or crow? I don't know. As usual, they're non-visible. We trade them items. There has been much deliberation over what exactly Pickle Pea and Pumperum refer to. I don't know or really believe that there's any logic to it. The logic has always been threadbare in all the Souls games. You just have to trial and error it till you get something out of it. Oh, yeah, invisible walls are back too. And they work properly. Covetous silver serpent ring. Alright, let's take a look at all this freshly gained loot. A shard soaked in Estus. In the old days, it was rare to see an Estus flask far from its owner, but this shard offers hope, however shattered. And, as it says, you turn it in, you get extra usages of your flask. There's nothing to say about that. It's just a bigger shard of a slab. I never looked at Pyromance, or the fireball thing, but nothing to say about it anyway, so we're good. These iron bracelets, durable iron bracelets protecting the wearer's wrists. Said to be bracelets of a Knight of Sunlight from a previous age. Has no particular powers, but are of fine quality, and evidently well taken care of. There's Solaire's gear. I don't think there's any profound reason why you can get it. I think it's just kind of a nod to the fans saying, here you go, you can do your Solaire cosplay one last time. A silver ring depicting a snake that could have been, but never was, a dragon. Fallen foes yield more souls. Snakes are known as creatures of great avarice, devouring prey, and whoops, sorry about that, devouring prey even larger than themselves and swallowing them whole. If one's shackles are cause for discontent, perhaps it is time for some old-fashioned greed. I think it is. I think it's always time for some old-fashioned greed. Slap that on. The reference to snakes, I believe, could just be a reference to snakes in general, but I think it's also a reference to the primordial serpents. These same kind of references to kind of failed dragons with relation to these serpents occurred in the first game as well. Now that we have this ring, let's go get wrecked by our friend, the Weeaboo Samurai. Switch this here because I like having my shield up at the same time. Now let's see if we can just be as humanly cheap as possible when dealing with this guy. Oh dear. Oh dear, simple strafing has bested. You know what? I don't think that's worth it. Try doing it this style. get a swig of this so we can... Oh! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no. Fair enough. Not a lot we could have done about that, eh? Gotta say, the NPCs in Dark Souls 3, the kind of the player character enemies, their AI is a lot more clever than it used to be, and they can do things like effectively parry. This fog right here is just a symptom of the fact that Firelink is a hub now. I suppose to make loading into this area quicker, because most of the time you'll have no reason to do anything but enter this area. They just don't load the outside world right away, in case you're not interested in going. See if we can pull off this trick. Ooh. Yeah. I may be barking up the wrong tree with that. I thought it might be clever, but apparently not. Aha. Y'all hear I was good at Dark Souls? It's true. It's truly true. Let's hope this doesn't become a string of failure that I'm forced to edit out. Okay. Let's think of something to discuss while we wait for the wonderful fog wall to disappear. Ah, here we go. Speaking of this guy who's harassing us, I don't know what his deal is. Possible that he is similar to other Japanese sword-wielding swordsmen of past games. It's possible that he is searching for kind of unusual or legendary equipments, or katanas more likely, in this area. Perhaps he has some reason to believe that he might find some here. Again, we can't really get into that until a bit later. Let's hope we don't get parried here. My goal is to R1 spam him to victory. Come on, do something I can work with. Ooh, Nelly. That is a lot of damage, yeah? Probably should have... If only I had some sort of ranged means of dealing with him. Bum, 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 bum. The Uchigatana and the Master's Attire. A unique katana characterized by the fine craftsmanship of an eastern land where it was forged. The finely sharpened blade cuts flesh like butter and causes bleeding, but breaks easily as a result. Big item in the Souls series, not for any kind of lore that it provides, but just kind of its impact on the community. Everyone loves their katanas. A terribly worn shirt. Men are fond of weaving tales to explain the raggedness of their garb. My sixth sense warned me of danger, and I danced between flurries of blades. Unscathed, but alas, my clothes went to tatters. Kind of the same explanation on his gauntlets there. Guess we want a raggedy outfit. It actually doesn't look half bad with what we've got. shows off that muscle slider or muscle option that we absolutely selected. Even so, I think we'll stick with our pyromancy garb for now. I do want to get rid of it eventually, but for the time being. Alright, that man taken care of. We'll follow through on our next hit. Sorry, no heavy lore for these particular sections, but still important. Still important. Alrighty, we're gonna go back to that pathway that I mentioned earlier. And the only reason we didn't do it before is why not do it with the Silver Serpent Ring? Get our extra pittance of souls, right? Every little bit helps. And there's just a little dev message telling us to turn back from the scary enemy that awaits us. Yeah. First I thought this was a crystal golem, but it's actually something quite different. Oop, short range. Take advantage of this. Get what I could only call a visceral attack. Roly-poly. Couldn't really get it there, owing to the difficulty. There we go. It's fine. It's fine. Nothing unusual going on there. Alright. Got ourselves a Titanite scale. And a Soul of an Unknown Traveler. That's garbage, but let's take a look at that scale. Reinforces soul transposed weapons to +4. In rare cases, crystal lizards devour souls, growing to monstrous proportion and leaving these great scales. So when a crystal lizard eats up a bunch of souls, turns into one of those. I will take that over a Titanite demon any day of the week. Alright. I think we've just about dealt with everything we need to take care of in the Firelink area. So I think we'll slap a few levels on ourselves and then we will head to our next destination. I really wish they didn't show items of lore, of strong lore relevance in those loading screens.
Produce the
I did that already. Thank you. Thank you. It's fine. Let's see. I am not 100% sure just what I want to do with my attack stats at the moment. 1210 is not going to suffice us forever, but let's ignore that for now and just do good old-fashioned vigor and endurance. It cannot hurt us to have a little bit of that.
Farewell, ashen maid of...
And let's just push our advantage here. Is that enough? That is not enough.
As pretty them to very well then.
Here we go. One more point.
fashion you want me.
Farewell indeed. Alright, first destination, the High Wall of Lothric. I almost wish the swordsman there had given us more trouble, so we could have nicely ended the episode there, but that's fine. So what do we have over here? Some kind of banner, some sort of regalia that I believe is the Lothric regalia. A coiled sword and a small vessel. Well, relatively small vessel. Let's not jump to conclusions. I don't think that's a lord vessel or anything like that, but it is interesting. It's kind of sequestered here in this room with creepy gargoyle men with crowns on their heads. Thinking, and they're winged. I think they're just gargoyles. There's some interesting stuff going on with the internal politics of Lothric, but I don't think those statues give us any insight. Woo! Speaking of which, hello Lothric. I'm telling you, the vistas are on point. Judging by the shape, that over there is a very important area. But this, I think, is the main castle of Lothric, what we were seeing from Firelink Shrine. I get the impression that Firelink Shrine is like on the other side of what we're looking at here, or maybe off in this direction. I'm not sure where exactly it's, how it aligns geographically here. But we're not in the castle proper, we're on this high wall, which I guess separates it from the rest of the world. And immediately we're greeted by all manner of fucking horrifying imagery. Hollows that seem to have had trees or tree-like items kind of sprout out of them. This is going to be a theme. And I'm going to be honest, as of this recording, I'm not 100% sure about what's going on with this theme, but let me tell you right now, this configuration is familiar to me. And you'll see about that later. But now that I look at how the way those branches look, I don't know. Well, let's explore our immediate area. Interestingly, these foot soldiers are wearing what is referred to as deserters' armor. They seem to be very much on duty, though, so I'm not... Are they just... Come on now. Are they just... Are they soldiers that are still watching over the high wall? Are they not deserters? Or are they deserters who are taking advantage of the situation on the high wall? Questions. And we got a dangerous situation developing here. Because coming up those stairs is going to be another one of these big bad motherfucker style hollows. Don't push. And I will have you know I am being very ballsy trying to parry these guys. Because I am used to the timing of a parry shield. Not this particular regular small shield. Given the damage that these guys do, not sure how much I want to play around with that. Alrighty. This area is feels very familiar to me as someone who played Demon Souls. It has a very Boletaria vibe to it, in my opinion. Not a bad thing, but that's the... That's the kind of impression I get. Very interesting that they have all these almost like reverent statues. I hope they're statues anyway. Kind of established on the high wall facing in. Well, okay, facing wherever they may. And we definitely see some... Oh, see regular hollows worshipping these tree-like figures. That is something I hadn't... That relates to something we'll see later that I had not... Whew, I had not thought of. I probably should have let that happen. This guy right here and that kind of dark aura that was sprouting out from him, if I had not killed him quickly, he would have had a large, like, tar-like form like we saw on the Udix Gundyr kind of burst out of him. Except it would be infinitely more irritating than the one that comes out of Udix Gundyr. That's why I kind of murdered him on reflex. Do not worry. There'll be more of those. And for what it's worth, these enemy types are referred to in-game as the pus of mankind. Charming, I know. What that is, I am not 100% sure. But, you know, the first thing that jumps to mind is definitely abyss. Like, is this a sign of the spreading abyss? Fire's fading, and dark encroaches on the world. I don't know. But we'll hopefully try to work towards finding that out next time, or one of these times in this Lorerun series. But for now I'm going to cut it off, trying to keep these around 40 minutes or so, just so that we can have reasonable upload times and processing times on YouTube. So, until next time, you guys take it easy, and I hope you join me again. Bye-bye.